Welcome to Smackey's Garage. Today we're going to be talking about should your next project car be a kit car. I'm going to walk through 6 things that you need to consider if you're considering a kit car as your next project car. Now I got to figure out how I'm going to get out of this thing. Now if you're new to this channel, we've been putting together this Factory 5 GTM supercar for the past few months. I'm helping out a friend and we're almost about to start the car. As I've been making progress, kind of building everything up to get it to the point of we're ready to start, I thought it's a good time to talk about what you really need to know and be able to do if you're going to be doing a kit car as your next project car. Because it's not as simple as if you're going to get a Fox body Mustang, maybe if you're going to get a classic car. There's a lot of different things that you need to consider that you might not know about. Now in this video, I'm going to talk through the 6 things that you really need to consider when you're taking one of these on, because they're really an undertaking. They say it's a certain amount of time, but it's a lot of work to build something like this, pretty much completely from scratch. Now, one of the first things that you really need to consider is the amount of time that it takes to build a car like this. If you're looking at a Factory 5 Cobra kit, those take about 300 hours to build, where this GTM behind me takes on average about 600 hours to build. Now, when you're thinking about what 600 hours are to build a kit car like this, if you do the math, if you're talking about each year, you have 52 weeks in a year, it's gonna take you about 1.5 years if you can put in 8 hours a week. And a lot of people probably will overestimate the time that they have to put into vehicles like this and to build. So when you look at it, an 8-hour day is essentially an entire workday dedicated to building a vehicle like this every week. So that's either 4 hours on Saturday, 4 hours on Sunday, or it's an entire day on Saturday. So if you're looking at it and you're thinking about it, consider the time that it's gonna take to build. For me, I've been working on this car for, let's call it a few months now, and I've gotten to the point where we're ready to start. I just took it outside, filled it up with coolant, and made sure that there were no leaks. Next, I'm gonna put the fuel in it, and then in the next few weeks, I'm gonna get it to start. I've been working on it for a few months, and I've just been getting it to this point now. Part of it is probably because it's a little bit colder, it's winter, but sometimes it's hard to find the time to build and work on a car like this because life typically gets in the way. To build a car like this, as a kit car, you need to have plenty of knowledge on vehicles. Now, not only do you need to know kind of what the vehicle is, but you need to know how to source the parts that you're going to be using for the project. So a lot of the companies like Factory 5 will help you out and tell you, hey, here's what you're going to need to get. They'll kind of lay it all out, but it's up to you to source a lot of the parts, typically. For this, you had to take a wrecked Corvette. You had to get a lot of the suspension parts off of it. You had to take a Porsche transmission. You need to get that. You could buy all new parts, but that's extremely expensive. You can do it. You can go to Summer Racing, you can go to Jegs, engine supplier, and buy an engine, or you could get a car that's wrecked. And if you buy a car that's wrecked, then you got to deal with taking everything apart, getting all the parts off of it, and making sure that everything fits up and nothing's damaged. Now, the next part about having plenty of knowledge on vehicles is knowing how a lot of the vehicle mechanics work. So not only do you need to know how everything goes together, but you need to make sure that you understand how suspensions work. You need to make sure that you understand how the coolant system works, because you're going to have to put all this together yourself for this car. So not only this, but you need to make sure that you know what you're doing. Then you need to have a good understanding of electronics. Now, I'm not going to say you need to have an expert level of electronics, but on a project like this, you need to at least understand how electronics work, how the battery system works, and how electronics on cars work, because you're going to be dealing with a lot of sensors and you're going to be dealing with kind of a lot of troubleshooting as you put it together. A lot of the instruction manuals really aren't that straightforward, so it's not as easy when you think about just putting it together yourself. They have some diagrams, so you need to be able to know how to follow that, but it's not as straightforward as you would think. Now, the next part of what you need to have knowledge on is you need to make sure you understand the fundamentals of how engines work, because with this, you're going to end up doing a lot of troubleshooting. As you're going to have to look at kind of making sure that the sensors are in right, know what oil pressure is, know how coolant systems work. You're essentially going to have to know each one of the systems and how they work to make sure that you're don't damage the kit car that you're building. Then, after this is all said and complete, I think one of the most daunting tasks when looking at kit cars is all the bodywork that goes with it. It's probably one of the hardest things to do, and I think this one is kind of a good example of how much bodywork is going to be involved. If you're not going to do it yourself, then you at least have to budget for it, but it could get extremely expensive if you decide to pay someone else to do it. So you need to make sure you budget for that. Otherwise, it's a lot of work to paint a car if you're trying to get it perfect. I mean, if you're trying to get it close, you could plaster dip it. There's a lot of different things you could do. But if you're investing the time and the money, you learn how to do some basics on painting cars, or find a good source, or before you even build the car, find someone that you trust or get some recommendations on who should paint the car. Now the third item, which I think is important, is you need to have plenty of tools. Even myself, for all the stuff that I have here, I've had to constantly go out and buy some new tools to make things work. It's pretty straightforward what tools you need, but you're always going to find something that, the right tool would make it a lot easier. So you need to think about, you need to have a good set of mechanics tools, so sockets, screwdrivers. I had to get crow's foot wrenches, which are ridiculously expensive, to be able to get some of the small pieces in the tight areas. You need to have a full set of electrical tools. So to be able to do some wiring, to do soldering, crimping, fuse blocks, and junction blocks. So you need to make sure you have a full set of electrical tools. And then if you're going to be doing the body work yourself, you really have to have a good set of bodywork tools. And those can get really expensive, especially if you're looking at doing the painting yourself and you need a paint gun. Now the next thing to consider when building a kit car is, do you really want to build something that's completely unique, different from everything else? Now when you buy a kit car, the quality of the vehicle and kind of how everything comes together is completely on you. If you're going to spend a lot of time building it, make sure things are done right, then you can make it a high quality vehicle. I think one of the things you need to know when you're looking at a car like this that's unique is it's going to be something that people are going to stop to look at when you're done driving it. And you need to be comfortable, I'd say, with at least talking with some people when they want to come up and question what it is. Even dropping this car off, we had a few neighbors coming out to see what it is. Some people pulled over to talk as we were unloading it. So I think there is one thing you need to make sure that you need to take into consideration is you're looking for a really unique vehicle that you're going to be working on. Now the next thing to consider when you're building a kit car like this is you're in a kit car friendly state and you understand the rules and regulations. I think it's extremely important that when you're looking at kit cars that you understand the full process of how you're going to get it registered. So if you're living in California, there's a specific set of rules which are different than if you're in Massachusetts. So it's really state by state how you're going to register the vehicle, how you're going to title the vehicle, and how you're going to be able to get it on the road. And that's really considering if you want to be driving on the road. If you're looking at just having it be a race car or something like that, then you don't really have to consider it or worry about that. Now, the last thing to consider when looking at a project like this is, how rewarding building a kit car is. Building a kit car like this is an extremely rewarding project. Whether you're going around for the track for the first time or you're taking it on the road for a cruise. Kit cars are definitely something different on the road, on the track, so you'll probably get noticed and people want to come around and talk to you. And they'll want to understand how you built this entire thing yourself. So thanks for tuning in today on Smackey's Garage, talking through kit cars and project cars. Now in the next few weeks, I have a lot of car projects planned and taking things apart. This is getting started now that it's finally warmed up, so I'm excited about that. The 69 Mustangs are ready to be started. The Shelby, I got the battery charging here. So with all this warm weather coming, lots more car videos on the way. I have a bunch of truck projects I need to do too, so thanks for tuning in to Smackey's Garage. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you next week on the channel.